Because of the way he carried himself, the way he conducted himself, how he he embellishes our four cardinal principles: manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. And he embodied all of those. And he is the kind of person that you would want in any organization that you belong to. He set a different kind of standard, okay? He was somebody that the United States could look up to, not just Brothers of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, okay? And so he is one of the illustrious members of our chapter, our local chapter. And back during his time, when you look at the members who were of Sigma Alpha chapter back then, it was a who's list of this community who belonged to Sigma Alpha chapter Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Now, I don't know where he pledged. He may have pledged Upsilon Psi at Florida A&M, or he could have pledged here. I don't know that. I mean, but he was probably, he was one of the early guys, because again, our chapter here was only started in 1939, and so, but before my time, okay? But here's a person that we honor, that we look up to, that we highlight, that and say this is the kind of person an Omega man should be. All of his accomplishments, his character, his impact on this community, his impact on Omegadom. I mean, he's the kind of person that if your daughter was getting married to somebody, you wanted to marry somebody like that, okay? So in every way, he embodies what an Omega man should be. If you didn't know anything about him, just the way he carried himself, the way how distinguished he was, he'd be a person that you would say, I want to be like him. For instance, when we spoke earlier, and I told you that Nelson Adams was, he lived in our community. There was something different about Nelson Adams. As far as the older guys in my neighborhood, he was just distinguished. The way he carried himself, he was just a distinguished individual. You knew he was somebody, okay? Oftentimes, people would say that about my grandfather. You looked at him, you just know that he is somebody. What is somebody, okay? What kind of characteristics does somebody have? Somebody of power, somebody of influence, someone in a leadership role. You just knew he was in a leadership capacity just by the way he walked, the way he spoke, the way he, I didn't know him like personally. I wasn't in his circle. I'm sure my grandfather was, but I just know that he was and still is a very, very well-respected person. And when you leave this earth, the thing that is carried with you the most is your name. And so when you hear his name and all of the good things that he did, and we would never hear all of them, okay? Even in his lifetime, he couldn't tell us all the things he did, all right? And some were more significant than others. When we talked about the teachers and him fighting for teachers' salaries, I remember my mother and many other school teachers when I was young, she took us out of school because the teachers went on the strike for pay. And they met for days at the Miami Regatta, where they used to have boat races on Key Biscayne. And so he's part of the fight of people who couldn't fight for themselves. He was part of that fight for people who didn't have any place else to go. So I am so thankful that you have a person of his moral standing that was the first in this position. The way he presided over this courtroom, it could have been done a different way, but he chose to do it in an honorable fashion, in an honorable way. And for that, he will always be well respected in my eyes. We all know that things happen in law enforcement, things happen in the judicial system, things happen a different way with respect to justice. And many times those people who are moneyed people, a finding goes a different way, a ruling goes a different way. And it's so pleasing to know that his representation, he will be remembered for his honesty, for his leadership, and for things of that nature. And, you know, we all looked up to him and wanted him to do well in this community, and he did.